innocent civilians and causing massive destruction every day, forcing millions to flee their country and undermining the international rules-based order we all believe in. NATO's response has been swift and decisive. We continue to provide strong support to the courageous Ukrainian people and armed forces, and Germany is playing a key role with military supplies, financial and humanitarian aid, and also by hosting more and more refugees. Allies have imposed unprecedented costs on Russia, and our sanctions are hurting Putin's ability to wage war. Germany's efforts here are critical too, including through the European Union and the G7. We have also rapidly reinforced NATO's deterrence and defence. Germany has stepped up, including with more troops in Lithuania and jets in Romania. We also work together to manage the risk of further escalation, because we have a responsibility to ensure that this conflict does not escalate beyond Ukraine. That would be even more devastating and more dangerous. We are facing a new reality, so we must also reset our deterrence and defence for the longer term, and we have already started addressing this in NATO. Reinforcing our defences will require increased defence investments. Germany is leading by example, including with major increases to the budget and your decision to invest in fifth-generation aircraft. I really welcome Germany's tireless efforts to find a diplomatic solution to the crisis in Ukraine, including your government's direct contacts with the Kremlin. At next week's NATO summit, we will address the consequences of Russia's invasion, our strong support to Ukraine, and further steps to strengthen NATO's deterrence and defence. North America and Europe stand united in NATO, determined to protect our people and our values. So once again, dear Annalena, it's great to be here, and I look forward to our meeting, and I also look very much forward to continue to work with you, because your leadership and your strong message on the need for standing together, facing this new reality, is something that is important for the whole alliance. So thank you so much.
Wir haben Zeit für zwei Fragen. Die erste kommt von Rosalie Romagnetz von der Deutschen Welle.
Eine Frage an Sie beide. Erstmal, Frau Ministerin, Sie haben über die Ostflanke-Stärkung gesprochen. Was konkret heißt das? Wie viele Soldaten gehen wohin? Und bedeutet das auch neue Gerätschaft? Und die Frage ebenfalls auch an Herrn Stoltenberg. Über welche Dimensionen der Stärkung der Ostflanke sprechen wir gerade? Und noch Nachfrage. Sie haben ja heute auch gesehen, der Herr Zelensky hat Deutschland vorgeworfen, es hätte nicht genug für die Ukraine. Wie sehen Sie das Tempo, in dem Deutschland gerade nachrüstet?
Vielen Dank. Die NATO-Verteidigungsministerinnen und Verteidigungsminister haben gestern die militärischen Stäbe der NATO beauftragt, Vorschläge für eine längerfristige Anpassung des NATO-Kräftedispositivs zu erarbeiten. Und zu den möglichen Optionen wird dabei sicher auch gehören, die bestehenden Stationierungen deutlich zu verstärken.
NATO has already increased our deterrence and defence, especially in the eastern part of the alliance. We now have hundreds of thousands of troops on heightened alert across the alliance. We have 100,000 US forces, troops in Europe. That has increased by several thousands just over the last weeks. And then we have 40,000 troops under direct NATO command, especially in the eastern part of the alliance, and the German leadership of the battle group in Lithuania, and the doubling of the number of German forces there is just one example of this increased presence on land, in the air and at sea. This is our immediate response, sending a clear message to Moscow that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance, one for all for one. But then we have also started the process in NATO to assess the more longer-term consequences for our deterrence and defense. And we have asked our military commanders to provide advice. We will receive that advice within some weeks, and then based on those advices from our military commanders, we will take the political decisions on how to further strengthen for the more longer term our deterrence and defense. The deterrence and defense is not about provoking a conflict, but it is about preventing a conflict. It's about preserving peace. And NATO's core task is to preserve peace, prevent conflict. We have done so for more than 70 years, and we need to continue to do that in a new security reality. On Ukraine, I will just say that I fully understand the frustration and the desperation that President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people feel, because they are in an extremely difficult situation where they see civilian casualties, destruction every day, including attacks on hospitals, schools, civilian infrastructure. And that's also the reason why NATO allies have stepped up their support, also delivering advanced weapon systems, air and missile defense, anti-tank weapons, fuel, ammunition, which is critical for the resistance that the Ukrainian forces are able to mobilize against the invading Russian forces. And at the Defense Ministerial meeting yesterday, allies stated and committed to continue to provide critical support to Ukraine. Let me also add that we have also actually supported Ukraine significantly since 2014, since Russia illegally annexed Crimea. Since then, NATO allies and NATO have supported Ukraine in many different ways. Allies have trained tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops, which are now on the front line fighting the invading forces. We have equipped them over many years with missile defense, with air defense, with many types of equipment. So the Ukrainian army, defense forces, is much bigger, much stronger, much better equipped, much better trained, much better commanded now than in 2014. It's first and foremost the bravery, the courage of the Ukrainian armed forces, which has enabled them to resist the invading Russian forces. But of course, the support we have been giving them for many years has proven to be extremely important, and therefore will continue to provide support to Ukraine.
Die nächste Frage kommt von Jörg Blank von der dpa.
Eine Frage an Sie beide. Zunächst mal, es gibt Spekulationen und Gedankenspiele, die NATO-Russland-Grundakte zu kündigen. Ist das für Sie im Bereich des Möglichen, nachdem wie Russland vorgegangen ist oder vorgeht in der Ukraine? Und eine Frage noch an die Ministerin. Nachdem die 3 osteuropäischen Regierungschefs in dieser Solidaritätsaktion nach Kiew gefahren sind, können Sie sich eine ähnliche Solidaritätsaktion für sich selber vorstellen?
Zur ersten Frage. Wir haben als NATO-Staaten in der Vergangenheit zu jeder Minute klar und deutlich zur NATO-Russland-Grundakte gestanden, und wir stehen das auch heute. Und es ist Russland, was auf brutalste Art und Weise diese NATO-Russland-Grundakte und damit auch den Frieden in Europa verletzt hat. Und für mich ist klar, dass es mit Blick auf diese Verletzung wir nicht einfach darüber hinwegsehen können. Und deswegen haben wir mit Blick auf unsere Reaktion, nämlich dem absoluten Bruch des internationalen Völkerrechts, aber eben auch dem Bruch mit Blick auf die Grundakte, die ja die Garantie auch für die gemeinsame Sicherheit in Europa war, eine deutliche Antwort gefunden. Und das sind die Sanktionen, die wir aufgelegt haben, gerade das 4. Sanktionspaket auf den Weg gebracht und vor allen Dingen die scharfe Verurteilung des Bruchs des internationalen Rechts, aber eben auch des Bruchs unserer Grundakte. Und, das hat der Herr Generalsekretär ja deutlich gemacht, wir müssen uns in diesem Moment schützen, auch an der Ostflanke stärker schützen. Das habe ich eben ja auch noch mal unterstrichen. Und deswegen auch mit Blick auf unsere Ostflanke dort weitere Truppen stationieren. Aber, und das ist hier deutlich zu sagen, das ist explizit auf Grundlage der NATO-Russland-Grundakte, denn sie hat immer wieder deutlich gemacht, dass die Selbstverpflichtungen, die darin Bestandteil sind, im Umfeld eines Sicherheitsumfeldes vonstatten gehen und mit Bruch dieser Sicherheit hat Russland jetzt die Grundlage dafür geschaffen, dass wir an der Ostflanke unsere Sicherheit verstärken müssen. Deswegen voll im Einklang mit der NATO-Russland-Grundakte, die einseitig von Russland gebrochen worden ist.
I would like to remind you of the fact that, as Minister Baerbock said, Russia has walked away. Russia has violated the NATO-Russia Founding Act, not only once, but actually every day since they illegally annexed Crimea in 2014. Because in the NATO-Russia Founding Act, it's clearly stated that we should respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of every European nation within its international recognized borders. So there is no doubt that Russia, by annexing Crimea, they violated the NATO-Russia Founding Act. Then they continue to violate the Founding Act by destabilizing eastern Ukraine, Donbass, by supporting the separatists. And now they have launched a full-fledged invasion of Ukraine, killing thousands of people, bombing cities, and waging a full-fledged war on Ukraine. This is a blatant violation of the core principles of the NATO-Russia Founding Act. So Russia has walked away. We will do what is necessary to protect and defend all allies, and we do so to ensure that there is no room for miscalculation or misunderstanding in Moscow about our ability to stand by our commitments, and we do so to prevent escalation, prevent that the war in Ukraine, which is dangerous, devastating and deadly, becomes even more devastating and deadly and dangerous by becoming a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia. And to prevent any miscalculation in Moscow about our ability to and commitment to defend all allies, we have increased the presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
Vielen Dank.